welcome to another FACEHAMMER video where we thought we'd do a follow-up on the Maggotkin of Nurgle from last weekend's show, which has gone down pretty well, so thanks everyone who's checked that out.
Yeah, thank you very much. You've been writing some lists, haven't you?
I have, yeah, so I've revisited my Nurgle a little bit. I've been thinking about mortals and looking at a few bits and bobs online, and I thought there's also a couple demon lists that I know people have been struggling with because they've, if you're a Nurgle demon player, which most Nurgle players were because that was the best stuff, there's been a little bit of despair, I think, about the sort of the change, whether or not that's power or just that it is a very different army, like we said in our previous show. And I think it's worth trying to give some ideas for people to come up with new lists. Disclaimer: I've still not played a game.
I was going to say, is this stuff that you're going to be? Are you going to be playing one of these? You've got some games coming up.
Yeah, I've organised a game next week, sort of restrictions permitting, and hopefully I can get my mortal Maggotkin out. I'm in the new studio. It's not set up yet, so I'm probably going to change the angle of where I am at the moment. But yeah, the table's not set up yet, but it should be next week. So I might try and do some sort of time-lapse footage of it or something, depending how easy that's going to be. Yeah, so I've got a game next week, hopefully, fingers crossed, so I could try this out. But wanted to touch on a few things that's come around over the week. There's been a couple bits of confusion about the rules. So obviously we haven't got the FAQ yet, so that might clarify some things. So I know there's some debate about the summoning points from the trees. That do they give you like one for each tree? So if you had 3 trees, you'd get 3 points per tree, or is it 1 point per tree? Don't know the answer. I'd assume that there are some errors in the book, things like disease points. It's sort of what the wording is said that if you had like 3 Nurgle units surrounding one enemy, they'd only get 1 disease point. But then there's artifacts or traits that give you 2 disease points, which then wouldn't actually do anything because if you count as multiple units, you still only get 1. So it's a bit strange. So I would say there's probably going to be some clarifications coming.
Wait for the dust to settle on those rather than speculating about it, I guess.
But if you want to play games, I would say play it at the worst version of what you think it is.
Always good advice.
Because if you play it at the stronger version and it gets FAQ'd to be the weaker version, then you're basically losing power. Whereas if you do it the other way around, you're either staying the same or gaining power. So it kind of makes your games a little bit more relevant. It's going to make you better at the game. So I would play it that the trees only give you 1 per tree, not 1 as in like if you've got 3 trees, each tree would give you 1 point, not each tree would give you 3 points. And I would play the artifacts, which is like the double points that you would get an extra point, but I would play multiple units around one enemy unit, then you get 1 point regardless of how many Nurgle units, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Completely. Just like when Metal Cruncher was out, like let's play things the worst way, and then we can only be pleasantly surprised rather than fueling
disappointed. Yeah,
fueling disappointment, or practicing a unit and then having to readjust in your head quite difficult stuff to readjust, where you think it is this powerful and it became less powerful, or you think it's going to have that much of an effect or whatever. So yeah, much better to not train in something that's going to be bad, because you can up it in your head. It's much easier than downing it.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought I'd going to cover 2 army lists today. One focused around mortals, one focused around demons. Not that this is by any means like the be all and end all of lists, or these are like the best lists. It's just lists that I put together and listened to people who thought these might be fun. And I think they might be quite good.
I have a question. How much are these informed by your collection of models that you already have? Because you have a pretty decent collection of Nurgle models and they're beautifully painted. So I presume that this is informed by which ones you got, or have you just been like, I would paint anything, I love Nurgle, I'm going to write this that I think are cool?
I mean, luckily, the models I have tend to be pretty good. So like, because a bit strange in the old book, I had some like choices that people didn't take very often. So I had a blowout painted, I had like a Lord of Afflictions, and I had Festus, and I had 10 Blight Kings, and a lot of people didn't take them. They just took Plague Bearers and multiple Great and Clean ones and things. So luckily I kind of have the stuff painted that I want to use, and in the new book it's come out quite well. But this is, I will have to paint stuff. Like I've got a Maggot Lord here, so this is going to be August Demon Spew. So I have bought some stuff. So I generally write lists of what do I want to play, not necessarily what do I own, and then I'll worry about getting it together, you know. So
and it just so happens that it's worked out all right, which I guess is, you know, the one thing to remind people of it is that, and I'm saying this with, you know, great hope as a Slanesh player, if you're playing something that feels like currently a bit crap, there is a good chance at some point it will come out in the wash. It's just, you know, patience.
Yeah, I tend not to sell painted models as well that I've done for my own collection, because like at some point they might be relevant again. And so I kind of think the time and effort to paint them, it's not worth selling them.
And build them and prep them. Like both you and I are pretty obsessive assemblers, and we put a lot of time into assembling to a high standard because it has an effect on how a painting looks. And like having to do something twice, which I have done on multiple occasions, you know, having got rid of something else feels really, really bad.
Yeah, I think I've done 3 ogre armies where I've sold 2 and then ended up doing them again anyway. So I've just kept them now. So it just seems a bit silly. So anyway, list 1. Let's go into this. So this is a demon army, which is a little bit weird. So I've gone for the befouling host. And what this does is this makes Beasts of Nurgle battle line, and it also gives you 2 trees to start. The idea of this list is to try and get as many contagion points as you can. And so the list is Horticulous Slimix, who's also going to give you another tree. He also buffs your Beasts of Nurgle, giving them reroll charges and +1 to hit. Then
only they can retreat and charge, can't they?
Yes, and they can run and charge. So basically, they are actually quite fast. So they're movement 5, but they can run and they can charge and they can reroll that. And they do mortal wounds when they charge, and when they back off, they do disease points. And then they can charge again, do more mortal wounds. So the idea is it's basically like balls of beasts that blob around. I'll go through the whatever else is. So I've got the Great and Clean one. I've given him like Nurgle Infestation, which is -1 to hit, and it buffs Nurglings nearby. Honestly, the trait could be the Arcane for the rerolls to cast from the general traits. It could be anything you want. I just put that on there because I was like, -1 to hit, flat, fine, we'll do that. So could be anything, do what you want, you know, take what you fancy. It's not important to the list what he takes. The Doomsday Bell for extra summoning, I think is very good. And I've given him the Bile Blade to allow him to cast an extra spell if I want, because I know the flail's slightly better in combat, but it's not enough to. I want the option to be able to cast 2 spells, like the extra Mystic Shield or the Arcane Bolt. I think it's more important than doing, you know, like 1 extra attack, which I think is all it is in difference. Spell wise, he's got Fleshy Abundance, and that's just give the Plague Bearers an extra wound. You can do it on the beast as well, whatever. It's just the extra wound spell. Now I've got a Rotbringer Sorcerer in here, and the idea is to just get your disease points ticking. So I've also got an Endless Spell, so obviously his ability with the Endless Spell allows him to create disease. But he's also got the Gifted Disease, which is the AoE explosion. Pick a unit, everything within 7 disease points. And that's purely because I think you're going to want access to Gifted Disease, which is in the Mortal Law. And it allows you to make your Endless Spell a disease spreader. The Endless Spell I've got in here is Horrorghast. This is to stop Battle Shock immunity, extra people run away. Could be anything. You could put Life Swarm in here. You could try and you could jig the points around a little bit by dropping like 1 beast and putting in Nurglings, and then that would key off the trait, and then you could put a 70-point one like Umbral Spell Portal, or you go a cheaper one if you want a Triumph, or you could put 2 in. It's really up to you. So it's not.
10 minutes is very, very appropriate in
Yes.
the Nurgle army. I feel you've already got some debuffs to hit and stuff like that, and you don't have a huge amount of models in here, which I'm really down for. Which I guess is why you don't have a Sloppity, or elsewise you only got 1 unit of Plague Bearers. So making the most out of that unit of Plague Bearers feels like quite a sensible choice, I guess.
Yeah, and I think on turn 1 you should have enough contagion to summon a Spile Piper straight away. So that's basically why it's not on the list. Plan. Yeah. So the battle line, I've put them in this grouping so you could battle regiment the army. It will be a 2-drop because of Horticus is 10 wounds, so you can't quite get it in a 1-drop. But it's 3 units of 2 Beasts of Nurgle, 20 Plague Bearers, and a single Beast of Nurgle. If you didn't care about the drops, you could literally just have them as single drops, and you could have 7 individual Beasts of Nurgle, which they do mortal wounds per model, so it doesn't really matter. But what's quite nice is your wounds don't over your healing and your wounds. If you ever know about anyone has to allocate attacks, as soon as you've got 7 individual models, it's quite hard to allocate efficiently that the wounds carry over and kill and then move to the next one. Whereas if they're a unit, it just does that automatically. So again, it's entirely up to you. You could even just not have Plague Bearers, and that 300 points could be whatever you wanted. It could be another great and clean one if you dropped a couple of bits out. I don't really rate that. I don't think it's worth it.
I don't think the Nurglings are bad for their points. I know they never really get.
No, they are good.
But they're particularly in an army where you've got like 1 Beast to Nurgle, chucking some Nurglings in there, which automatically heal themselves up to full wounds. I think you're just raising the level of annoyance and harassment that you can give your opponent.
Yeah, and they're only like 105 points, so they're a good swap in. You can even that 300-point Plague Bearer unit could be Blow Aberrotsborn, it could be August Demon Spew. It's just whatever you want. It doesn't have to be. I've only got Plague Bearers because I think it's nice to have a big chunky unit.
I would agree.
Just to give you a bit of a screen, a bit of something. And likewise, the Rotbringer Sorcerer could be Epidemus. These are the same points. You could even change the Endless Spell and put Festus in if you want more Locus, or if you want his ability to lower armor saves. So really, it's going to be, the idea of the list is you're going to get Contagion quite quickly, because you should on the first turn get free for having Nurgle in your territory, a bonus one because there's no enemy, hopefully. Then you've also got free trees, so you're immediately on 7 points. Then the bell can give you points as well. So you're going to be very close to getting a hero straight away. The idea is you use your summoning, the aggressiveness of the beasts and Horticulus and the buffs of those, that in itself is enough to go in. And just do mortal wounds and be annoying and do disease, and the beasts are actually pretty solid. So like they've got, let me just bring up their profile.
They are 4 attacks, 4s to hit, 3s to wound, rend 1, damage 2.
There you go.
And then D6 attacks, 4s and 3s, no rends, damage 1. But the important stuff for them I don't feel is is up there. So they got Attention Seekers, which is they can run or retreat and still charge, and then they can retreat and they can pass across models, like they can fly, which is kind of cool. And before this unit retreats, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 of this unit. On a 4+, that unit suffers 1 disease point. Also, they kind of do impact hits, so after they finish a charge move, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 1 of that model on it. So if you've got 2, you're rolling 2 dice. On a 2+, that enemy unit suffers D3 mortal wounds if it has 1 or more model. No, it's not the stuff, but yeah.
So the other bit is just to stop you moving casually, so you can't. It's just the standard wording.
Sequencing thing.
Yeah. But they're fairly good. I mean, they're 5 up, 5 up. So they've got 8 wounds each. They're faster. I mean, movement 5 is faster than movement 4. I mean, not fast in a movement sense, but the fact they can run and charge is. And
you got rerolls on them. That just makes such a big difference.
Yeah. So because he's got the beast handler rule. Holy within 14. and you get +1 to hit as well.
Oh, that's quite a big difference actually.
Yeah, because they hit on
Threes.
3s, not 4s. Yeah.
Yeah, 3s and 3s rend 1 damage too is quite nice.
It's
really.
decent. Yeah. It's I think as well. Like if you look at the summoning, so 7 points gets you a Scrivener or a Bile Piper, and then the Bile Piper can buff demons of Nurgle, so you can basically get +1 to wound rolls, or you can if an unmodified wound roll is a 6 and they kills a mortal wound, or you can also do the no pile-in thing. So
good options.
You're quite good if you want to limit the damage coming back to you, and obviously because you've got a Locus in the Great and Clean one, and you heal damage in your hero phase from the Allegiance rule, it's still pretty good. I think it's a kind of annoying list, and because you can't get pinned as well, like it's actually quite good for being able to get out of situations and charge stuff you want to charge, do the impact hits, and
every time you get out, you're doing a bit of damage as well, aren't you? Like it's it's going to tick up mortals, not contagion points and the chance of mortals. It's going to tick up mortals pretty reliably.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, if you manage to charge 7 beasts into one thing, that's 7 dice on a 2-up D3, so it could be up to like 6 D3. 7 D3, 5 D3 mortals. Even if you roll a couple ones, like 5 D3 mortal wounds is probably going to kill a lot of stuff or do a lot of damage. Then when they attack, it's fairly solid, especially if they're at +1 to hit and to wound. I mean, like you'd be hitting on 3s, wounded on 2s. It's not rubbish. Let's put it that way. So a Bile Piper would be like my priority summon. Obviously, like the Plague Bearers are in there. You could get a Scrivener as well for 7. So each turn you can get a hero. You should be able to. They might start getting in your way, but even Nurglings are only 8. The Bell, if you roll a 1, then you should still have 7, but you could end up with 8 or 9. So you could even put another tree down. But I think once you've got 3 trees, that you don't really need any more than that. So, and obviously they create disease as well. So they become obstacles, and Beasts of Nurgle are on 60 mil bases, I think. So they're not too hard to slot in around the trees. Units of 2, fine. I mean, you could have singles. If you wanted to, like I say, Nurglings wouldn't be a bad shout, because I actually think their setup rules quite forgiving. Because I know people, you look at it and you think, oh, that's actually quite hard. But if you read the Hidden Infestation rule, it says you don't have to do this as well, but you can put it in reserve at the end of your first movement phase on the battlefield, wholly outside your territory, within 3 of a terrain. So it's not wholly within 3, it's just within 3, and 9 from enemy. So that should be fairly easy to set those up.
Unless your opponent's completely covered the board, in which case you're just going to deploy it where you deploy it anyway.
Yeah, so you wouldn't. It's just if you got the choice to go first, you're going to take the first turn, or they're going to give you the first turn. They could be useful. You need to be a little bit careful, because if they zone you out, then and you've put them in reserve, I don't think you can bring them back on. They'll just be destroyed. But that's what it is. So, but yeah, I think Nurglings are pretty cool. The Great and Clean ones, obviously, your big anvil, Brownlee Plague Bearers, and he's got the Wither Stave, so that's doing the extra disease wounds on a 3 rather than a 4 if you're within 7. But I think it'd be quite a fun list to play.
Yeah, just a note for people: the Slogsy Bile Pipers rules, they're all AOE's. So if anyone's wondering whether it makes sense to have like a big beast of Nurgle unit so you can buff it or something like that, everything in this list kind of works in ranges, and it's like all Nurgle demons within or whatever. So I really like that about it. I think it allows you to tinker with your makeup of your beast unit. If you want to play one big unit so you can buff it with CPs, then cool. And if not, then you can go like 6 times 1, or I'd probably go 5 times 1, one unit of Nurglings, and then you'd have up to 70 points for endless spells, which unlocks a few more, which is kind of cute.
Yeah, could just be the Umbral Spell Portal.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Geminids, like you said. I think Geminids is 80 actually, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you can drop 2, take drop 2 beasts, take 2 units of Nurglings, whether it's together in a bigger line or as individuals. It kind of fits the theme of the list, and then you got 85 points to spend.
Yeah, so that's the crux of it. So oh, that's the second list. So yeah, so but I think it'd be quite fun. You can mix and match, do what you want, but I think if you're playing pure Nurgle demons, you're going to be wanting to basically get Beast and Nurgle in the list. Befouling Host seems like the best option for me.
Fast and fun to paint as well. Just obscenely, like obscenely good.
Yeah, you're going to have a whole line of them just being like, stop. Because they'll look like this. Or like, stop. You can even, I always thought it was funny because you could put 2 facing each other, so the high five in. Like,
yeah.
So you could even do the beast pose. So, but yeah, I think that's a fun list. The next list is one that I'm probably going to actually do because it's models I have and it's kind of more mortal focused. So this is Drowned Men. Obviously, I'm sorry, I didn't mention the grand strategy. It would be hold the line because obviously battle line alive and all the beasts are battle line, so it kind of makes
Welcome
sense.
to Nurgle.
And no surprise, this is also keep your battle line alive. It's not as good in this as it is in the other, but yeah, still useful. So this is Bloab Rotspawn because he's my man. He's my favorite. Augut's Demon Spew because point for point, he's just raw efficiency personified.
The wizard.
He's not, but he's just a free command point, free up armor save, loads of damage.
It's in the injustice.
He's just awesome. So
value, man.
Bloab is a wizard, so he's very good. Then Festus, who is a wizard as well, but also is a locus because I don't have a demon, so it's the only locus in my army for the D3 heals rather than the 1. He's also got the Mortal Wounds, the -1 armor save spell. Then my general is a Lord of Afflictions, who's got the Living Plague command trait, which is within 7, you get a disease point, and I get a contagion point, basically. So he's there to give me some summoning points and to put disease on you. He's also got the Rust Fang, which allows me to lower your armor save on a hero once per game. Then my battle line is 2 units of 5 Blight Kings, 2 Pasquil Blight Lords, and then for my other, I've got a Pasquil Blight Lord single, and 2 units of 3 Nurglings, and that puts me into 2,000. Now, the last 320 points could be Morbidix Twiceborn. If you wanted to run all 3 Magaflords, it could also be, you could just have 2 units or another 2 Pasquil Blight Lords rather than the single and the 2 units of Nurglings. That's exactly like 220. So then you've got 100 points left for something. You could have 20 Plague Bearers. You could, so it's whatever you want. I like Blight Kings. They may not be the best battle line, but I just think they're cool. So that's why I've got those. And this list really is a bit more of an all-rounder. I like the Nurglings because they give me some way to deploy deep. In terms of formation, you can actually put Warlord in, although you don't have a secondary hero to put artifacts on. If you wanted to, you could get that's for the command point, and you can do what you want. I mean, you could jiggle some points around and put a Rotbringer Sorcerer and Endless Spell in if you drop both the Nurglings out, or the single Pasquil unit Nurglings, whatever. There's a lot of stuff you can do. It's really up to you. I don't know if this is going to be the final iteration. I've just put this together and I think it'd look cool on the table. So yeah,
maybe go for a source of reroll charges or something. They're not very sexy formations, but I think you get value from the ones like that.
Yeah, the Vanguard and things like that. It's all good. So just go through the bits and bobs. So if I can get this working, there we go. So like I said, it's the Rust Fang, which is once per battle at the start of the combat phase, pick an enemy hero in 3, -1 for save the rest of the battle, and that combos nicely with Festus because he's got a spell. The one thing I would say about this list is you've got a lot of spells you want to cast and only got 2 casts, so it's you kind of sit there a lot and go, oh, wish I had another cast here.
They're not buffed either, are they? That's the
No.
thing that I'd be the most concerned about, because if you're just on the dice on people, then that's not bad odds. If someone's at +1 to this spell, then you might feel quite bad.
Yeah, I mean you need the Lord of Fixtures to be a general, otherwise you could take the reroll casting trait. But Festus has got the Leech Lord's Curse, which is on a 7 on a range of 14. Pick an enemy unit within range, subtract 1 for their saves for the rest of the battle. I've given him. I don't know about the spells, to be honest. I'm not sure what the best options are. I've given him the disease spread 21-inch thing that spreads out a gifted disease, because I'm thinking if you're not within 14, what else are you going to be doing with him? You might find that Plague Squall might be more relevant because that doesn't have a range, but I don't rate the spell. So, and then Blowab's got an insanely good spell, which is again a Miasma on a 6, 14. Pick an enemy unit until your next hero phase. Roll a dice at the end of each phase in which any wounds or mortal wounds are allocated on 2+, they take D3 mortals. So if you get that on a priority target, it's just going to do so much chip damage.
Tick, yeah.
You've got ways to do damage in, the battle shock phase because disease. You've got shooting. You've got combat. You've got hero phase damage, and you can even use Arcane Bolt in a clever way where you can do that in a charge phase to then do more damage there. A Beast of Nurgle might be a good addition for 110 points rather than the single Puscoil.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So because that gives you the damage on the charge, so you could do D3 on the charge, and then that's another. There's also
and the retreat.
Yeah. But it doesn't really do damage when you retreat. It just maybe puts a disease point on. But if you're within 3, if you stay in combat, it puts one on automatically. So it's almost like a half chance to leave disease if you run away. Obviously you've got start of the combat phase, enemy shooting phase. You've got the demon flies that they take on a 4+, they take a mortal wound and they get -1 to hit. So that's quite nice as well because when he's near. So Blowab wants to be near, so that's why I've given him the spell, which is everything within 7 takes a mortal wound. I think, let me just double check it. Is it Rancid Visitations? Range of 6, cast on the 6, range of 7. Pick an enemy unit within range and roll 1 dice for each model that's within range. On a 2+, they take a mortal wound. So if he gets into a big infantry unit, he's going to devastate it with that because you're going to be within 7 of most of the models in the unit. On a 2+, they take a mortal wound per bloke or per guy or per witch elf, whatever that's within range. So if you get into combat with him and he survives, which he's quite tanky, so it's not unheard of, that's a must-stop spell. Absolutely must-stop spell because that would just devastate a unit. So yeah, I like that. It's kind of like you're going to be casting his normal spell or bolt or shield, but if he's in combat and then in your hero phase, you're like, well, that's going to do a lot. He doesn't even need to be in combat, to be honest. He could just be behind the Blight Kings, and the Blight Kings should take the charge. But against infantry horde armies, that's going to be a bit of a nightmare for people. He's just great. For 300 points, the efficiency that he brings is insane. And Allgut's Demon Spew is just a complete beat stick. So he's 14 wins for a 3+ save, 7 attacks at damage 2 with the rot axes and 5 attacks at damage 3 with the monstrous claws. That's an awful lot of output. If he takes a ward roll of a 6, then you can do a mortal wound back, and he can do a command ability to mortals for free. So that's all that defense or attack, whatever, or reroll charge. He's just great, and he's also a general in addition. So I think Allguts is for 300 points is very, very good value. And like I say, if you wanted to run Morbidix Twiceborn, he slots in really nicely as well.
You'd have like 3 main battle line blocks, 3 main dudes, and you could probably squeeze 3 little others. So you just have like three.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like Morbidix is, if you don't kill him, he heals so quick because he basically ended the battle shock. He gets half the wounds allocated healed, but he also heals in the hero phase. He's a Nurgle unit, so it's just if you've got Festus as well, and it's just heroic actions. He's going to stick around. He's got a free up armor save, and if you take Nurglians, then if you've got a unit of Nurglians near him, then you can return a slain model to the Nurglin swarm within 7 and start your hero phase. So
I think that's really underestimatable as an ability, as are Nurglings in general. Like they're so much more survivable than people think, and with them healing up to full and then adding 1, their grind potential is just going to be brilliant. I think, they're not going to kill anything, but they are going to stand
put
there
disease points on you.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to stand there for way longer than people would think.
Yeah, so it's quite nice, especially if you get some enough contagion summon. Nurglings only cost 8, so you should get those fairly quickly. Yeah, so that's the Magnet Lords, and then for the Pascals, now the Lord of Afflictions, and what you can do is you can set him and the Pascals off the table. So one of the other options in this list is to put Plague Drones in, so because they've got a shooting attack, so that kind of helps with blow up, but I like the Pascal Blight Lords, so you can put them all off the table and they can descend down at the end of your movement phase, 9 away, and then everything wholly within 12 with the guys. So you can get around the movement issue by, if you're worried about like, oh, actually I want to be able to have something, and if you don't want to put everything off the table, you can put the 1 off with the Lord of Afflictions, and then just keep the 2 on the table, and then they get a pre-game move as well. So if you're playing, because you're playing Drowned Men, they get a pre-game move. Now, you could just say, I don't care about the pre-game move because I'm going to be using them in the sky. You could just play Befouling Host to get the extra tree. I mean, I know it doesn't really benefit you in any other way, but then
none of them are huge, are they? In terms of what they do,
and it does make the beast battle line. So if you then put a beast in instead of the single blight, the Pascal unit or the Nurglins, then you've suddenly got another battle line unit for your grand strategy. So you can play around, and it also means you could, if you really wanted to, you could just drop the Pascals completely. Then you wouldn't need the Lord of Afflictions, and then you could literally just go like beasts and Nurglins, and just complete a Morbidix and just ignore that element of the list. I like them. They do mortal wounds on the charge as well. I just think they've got a bit of fight to him. I think the Lord of Afflictions is really good with his 8 wounds, a free up save, and I really like the command trait. And you need somewhere to put your artifact and stuff, don't you? So, and he's got the what did I give him? Living Plague. So start your hero phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 7 on a 2+, give him a disease point, and you get a contagion point. The idea is he goes in, he's just survived, and then he just generates disease and contagion, which allows you to then summon in Plague Bearers or whatever, because you're not. I mean, to be honest, Nurglins would be a good shout. I mean, they're a good summon, but so are stuff. You can even summon beasts. You can summon drones.
Don't know. Yeah, don't know. I show on 2 different lists, and we're just talking about Nurglings. They are like for what you get for 105 points, they're a bargain. They're also being that little bit cheaper. They do fit in places that other things just won't when points are tight. So I think very often it is going to be a good option to have probably up to 3 bases worth available for both summoning and just dropping into list if you've got 105 or 210 points free.
Yeah, I think they're just nice because they are just an annoyance thing that if they can't retreat as well, because they've got the Disgusting Resilience save, unless that gets FAQ'd out, because I don't know if that's meant to be intentional, because it seems a bit, because Nurglins never really had that before, but now they do. So
everything in the book does now. I could see it. I could see it sticking, being there.
But like a 6-up save, 5-up ward, 8 wounds in the unit, and if you don't do 5 wounds, it heals back up, and then they can scout.
Good chance they're in terrain as well, so that save would be one.
Yeah. If you put them up in terrain, then they get cover. So yeah, it's a good shout. So I think like they're they're annoying enough that they're not as easy to shift as you think. You probably need more than you expect.
People will under allocate towards them for sure. They'll send, I don't know, whatever it'd be, a unit of 5 elites at them, and then be really annoyed when 1.1 bases survive and that equals 2.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've sent Vanguard into rain and been really, really unpleasantly surprised by what happened. And that's before they had the save. So yeah, pretty good as an option, I think.
Yeah.
The entire book as well, it's not about blunt. It's not like blunt turn 1 damage.
No.
That's not the type of book it is. So I think people just need to shift their expectations from either other Nurgle lists they've been playing or other armies perhaps they've been building lists for or playing, because you just need to tick up, and about turn 3 is where you should find the power of the Nurgle book, I think, from first impressions at least. You're going to be adding wounds to people. You're not going to be dying as fast as they think at all. Your heroes are still going to be around, and your opponent's heroes might be dead. And adding little annoying things is just going to help you get to that point. You're almost, it's like putting crap down, putting crap down early, just to make sure that when your power does build in the mid game, you can really assert it wherever you want and wherever you need on the table.
Yeah, I'm interested to play. That's why that second list is a bit of everything. I kind of want to play it and see how it feels before I decide. I might decide that Persecutor is just not very good, and actually it's and even like Blight Kings, and you just like, and you end up going down this befouling host and spamming Beast and Nurgle. It might be just the most efficient way of playing the army. But I don't know. And to be honest, like, even if it is like slightly more efficient, I just like Blight Kings, so I'll probably play them anyway. At least to have one unit of them. That you might find that, like, even like having like a Lord of Blights or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm a bit down on the Harbinger because when we did the review, I didn't realize it was just the first battle round he gets the command points, which are kind of useless in that turn because you do a lot in the first turn. You're not really fast enough.
You're just going to spend it on a run, aren't you? Really?
Yeah, and you can only do that once anyway. So you normally have more. It's normally you want the command points in turn 2 and 3. Really, is when you need them.
Maybe that's a reason to take the Vanguard one. Then you can have 2 units benefiting from increased speed or whatever. It's quite nice to assert your way up the board with a slightly slower list.
Yeah, I mean, if you move 8 pre-game and then move 8, in the movement phase, 16 inches, and then charge. It's going to be a long charge, but
it's a threat for people. That's not going to be that long potentially.
I think if you've got the Lord of Afflictions, though, like, you're probably going to be on a 9 anyway, so you might as well just drop from the sky. Depends on the board state. But yeah, I mean,
means you can be lower drop and your opponent can't. They can't just deploy wherever the hell they want and be absolutely safe. Which I think is nice. That if you're not 1 drop, then I think it's really nice to have decisions to give your opponent, so they can't play the game entirely on their own terms and just do whatever's perfect for them. You need to give them a few considerations, ideally.
Yeah, and I think you could get to a 2 drop if you wanted to with that list, because you just combine stuff up and then go, you've got 2 monsters, so you're going to be a 2 drop. But I quite like having the 2 monsters because it allows you to do a lot of the battle tactics, like get 2 monsters in their territory and
you get
monsters
2 big
take over
as well, don't you?
Yeah, it's
nothing's weak in there, but they're particularly grindy and powerful. You could anchor your corners with them. You could send them up as a double. I really like what they bring to the list.
And like I say, we haven't mentioned the wheel, but it just does what it does, and so there's not really much play around it. You just get whatever it is, and you're kind of you're beholden to fate, really. I don't really rate the trait to skip it forward. After playing some games, there'll be some lessons learned, I'm sure. So the idea is I'll play a couple games, probably proxy some of it and see how it plays, and then do a follow-up and say, like, I'll take some photos and stuff. Obviously the models won't be finished, and I'll be like, well, I found this was useful, this wasn't useful, this is how many contagion I got, I didn't have enough disease, or the disease did this much damage. So I'll just try and take some lessons learned. I'm sure there's people out there that have already played games. I think Just Play have got a game on the stream yesterday they had, so you can catch that out. So
any thoughts people have got or lessons they've already learned or ideas they've had, please do pop below in the comments and we'll take them on board. And Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what you're. So you're going to be adding Orgot,
I've got some
Squirrel
Nurglings.
White Lords.
So I've got a
and some
Scrivener
Nurglings.
assembled, a Beast assembled, a Bile Piper assembled. I've got 4 Pascal Blight Lords to assemble and paint. And I've got Orgut's Demon Spew to do. I'll do a Morbidix Twiceborn as well, so I've got that option.
Yep.
Then I probably need to get about 4 or 5 more beasts. So I might
so
get my
fun.
orders in.
Yeah.
So, but then like what I quite like is I've already got a lot of Nurgle stuff. I haven't got loads of Plague Bearers, but it doesn't seem like that's the way anymore. So I'm quite glad I didn't go out and paint like hundreds of Plague Bearers.
Yeah, I think having a 30 available,
Mm.
whether you would maybe be starting with 20 and summoning in 10, starting with a 30, or having them as a couple of summoning options. I
think I've got 50. So
okay, you're absolutely fine then.
So it's either that or I've got 30 or 40 or 50. It's one of the, I can't quite count them in my cabinet. I think I've got 40 or 50. It's something like that. It looks like more than 30, but it might just be 30. So, well, no, I'm looking at them in the cabinet thinking, is that 30? I'll count them in a minute. I have got more on sprue, but whether or not I want to bother painting them. So, but yeah. So the important thing is I have my Lord of Afflictions, 10 Blight Kings, Festus, and Blowout painted, and I'm happy with those. So more mortals to come. I've got a Great and Clean one, obviously, and I really like the paint job I've done on him. So
yeah, that was just such a good one.
Yeah,
you know my thoughts. I painted 4, I think. I really like them a lot.
I didn't want to do another one. I was like,
Give it to me. I was fine.
Anyway, that's the list. Let us know what you think of the lists. If you think they're okay, or there's some things you would change. If you've got any lists you've come up with you're particularly excited about, pop down below. Leave us a like if you like the army lists, and tell us why you don't like them, if you don't like them, or you think they're trash, whatever. And there has been a White Dwarf update for Soulblight Gravelords. So we will be doing a show on that. We don't normally cover White Dwarf updates very much, but this one's a little bit close to home for me because I like Soulblight, and I've got a list that I talked about a lot on the show, which is Graveguard list, and the update does actually do quite a lot to buff that in power, so I wanted to cover that. So keep your eyes peeled on our channel, subscribe if you don't want to miss out, and then hopefully we'll get a follow-up Nurgle video with some actual on-game, on-table experience with what, how it plays, and some lessons and takeaways, and then I'll refine a list. And I'll do the classic, if I was going to a tournament next week, what would I take? And we'll go from there.
Cool.
So just as a reminder, our objective markers are back in stock. If you head over to elementgames.co.uk and click on FACEHAMMER in the search bar, or you can click in the description below. I'll also pin it in a comment to take you there. They're $19.95, and you get your see-through objective rings for your table. You've got 6 of them. They've got non-slip on the back, pretty durable, and it helps support us. So if you want to pick up a set, we'd much appreciate it.
Grab them. We'll put sweets in your order, we promise.
Yeah, you get some nice element mints. Or are they on tropical at the moment? I don't know.
We have a strange selection at the moment, but both of them are good.
Yes. So if you want some objective markers, then please help us out by picking them up from Element Games through the link below.
Make sure you click through the link and support the show.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. We'll catch you all again soon.
Cheers, guys. Catch you in a bit.
Bye.